Hey friends, how does faith influence our views on intimacy? I'm Leah Carey, a schmex and relationship coach, here to explore how pop culture reflects our understanding of relationships, gender, communication, intimacy, and more. Today, we're diving into the buzzy new Hulu show, The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, to look at how faith and purity culture impact this group of women's ability to experience healthy schmexuality, which is a very hard word to say, but, trying to stay on the right side of the powers that be. Now, keep in mind, as we talk about this, that reality TV shows real people, but their words and circumstances are highly edited. So my comments are based only on what we see on screen, which may or may not be a true representation of any individual's true thoughts or actions. So join me as we unpack the complexities of their stories and what they reveal about our own perceptions of intimacy and connection. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please drop a comment about how culture and religion have shaped your views on relationships. Now let's get started.
Really wild things ended up on Reddit because of one of the moms from Mom Talk. My blood was boiling. I got on a TikTok live, 50 to 60,000 people. We would have parties, and there was a group of us that were intimate with each other. I have made out with all of the husbands, and that's where things just kind of blew up.
Every single podcast had an opinion about it.
Okay, so this whole thing started because this group of women in Utah, the Mormon Wives, had started this TikTok group. I think one of them calls it like a content production company, basically, where they all appear in each other's videos. And they were getting huge numbers of followers, millions of followers. And then all of a sudden, this main figure, Taylor Frankie Paul, does a TikTok live and says, "We are swingers." Now, I have to just say up front, I was only tangentially aware of this whole story as it was happening. I remember hearing about it and kind of being like, sounds about right. Because honestly, I have a lot of cynicism about how sex and religion interact. But I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. So this is sort of my main introduction to this whole topic. So if there are things about this scandal that it is obvious to you that I don't know that I should, please drop a comment, let me know. But I'm just taking everything that I see on screen basically at face value because I don't have any other knowledge about it. Okay, so anyway, Taylor goes on this live and she says, "We've been soft swinging. I've made out with all of the men and we've all been intimate with each other." So that brings up the question of what is soft swinging? You may be familiar with the term swinging or swingers culture. That is when a group of people come together. They are primarily, maybe entirely, all in a heterosexual pairing, so a man and a woman. They come with their spouse or partner, and then they swap partners. So this couple comes in together, and this couple, well, I didn't mean to do that. I'm not quite sure how to stop that. Okay, so one couple comes in and then a second couple comes in and this man and this woman get together and this man and this woman get together. Or maybe 6 couples come in and it's not just a one-to-one swap of these 2 people switch with these 2 people, but people sort of go ring around the rosy or whatever. There are lots of different permutations of this. There are swingers clubs. This is a whole population of people. It is not unusual. You probably know people who are swingers, even if you aren't aware that they are. honestly, this is, yes, a subculture because people don't talk about it, but it's not a subculture because, oh, nobody's doing it. There are lots of people who are doing it. Okay, so then what does it mean to be a soft swinger? In general, and when it comes to terms in this sort of entire world of schmexuality, there's no single definitive definition of much of anything. But in general, soft swinging means that you're going to do everything up to, or at least everything is on the table to do up to PIV. Now, if you're not familiar with that, it means the boy has a P and the girl has a V. PIV. Again, censors. It's scary to talk about this stuff. So anyway, in soft swinging, generally the understanding is that you can do just about anything except PIV. Now, the reason that this whole scandal broke apparently is that Taylor and her husband were part of this group of moms who they would all come together and they would have swingers parties where people would swap. And as she said, she made out with all of the different guys, and presumably her husband made out with all of the different women. And at some point, she broke the rules. Now, what does breaking the rules mean? Could mean that they had PIV. It could also mean that sorry, that was a text. I should have put my phone on silent. I am really batting on all cylinders today. That's not even a phrase. It means that, actually, let me turn this off. Whoops, or throw it on the floor. It means that she may have caught feelings for another one of the people in this group. Now, in swinging, generally, again, there are no set rules. Everybody does this their own special way. But apparently the rules in her relationship with her husband were, we can do this as long as we don't develop feelings for any of the other people in this group. Now, that is a very common boundary that couples put into place when they're exploring any kind of ethical non-monogamy. And just to be clear, swinging is ethical non-monogamy because you are having relations with people outside of your pair bond, but everybody is aware of what's going on and is consenting. That's what makes it non-monogamy outside of your primary pair bond, and ethical, everybody knows what's going on. Okay, when people enter ethical non-monogamy, this is a really common agreement that they make. Well, we can sleep with whoever we want, or we can make out with whoever we want, as long as we don't catch feelings. And I gotta tell you, it is one of the biggest mistakes that people make going into the world of non-monogamy, because you can't legislate feelings. There's simply no way that you can tell somebody you are not allowed to feel a certain way about a thing. You can make boundaries that legislate their actions. Well, no more than once a week or once a month or whatever. Or you can only do these things like, no PIV or no oral, something like that. You can make those boundaries. Still a little bit, dicey about whether they're going to be followed, but you can, if you decide to legislate actions, you can never legislate feelings. It's just not something that humans, we don't have that level of capacity to just be like, nope, not going to feel any feelings about this person. That sounds like it was their first mistake, was to get involved in this and make a boundary and a commitment that was simply not a reasonable boundary or commitment to make. If you're going to go into non-monogamy, it has to be with the understanding that feelings may develop and that you are going to have feelings about your partner having feelings, and that the two of you are going to have to navigate that. Sounds like that was not at all clear in this situation. The other thing that I want to bring up is that the cultural zeitgeist says that Mormon equals polygamous, meaning a man has many wives. I think we all understand, at least intellectually, that, the Mormon church outlawed polygamy a long time ago, and now there are these certain sects of fundamentalists who, like the Brown family of sister wives, are still living polygamy, but in general, Mormons don't. And so that might be really confusing listening to this conversation about swinging. Well, isn't polygamy outlawed, or how do the two things interact? Okay, so polygamy is different than non-monogamy. I mean, polygamy is kind of non-monogamy, but with such a misogynistic, patriarchal set of rules that I don't think you could possibly call it ethical. Polygamy is generally understood to be one man has many wives, and all of those wives are only able to be intimate with him. They're certainly not intimate with each other, and they are definitely not allowed to have other male partners. They must get all of their fulfillment, all of their touch needs, all of their intimacy needs met by one man who is splitting his time and energy amongst multiple women. That is actually, if we wanted to use the formal term for it, is polygyny, meaning one man with many wives. You could also have polyandry. Is one woman with many husbands. It's very uncommon, but it actually is still practiced in some small sects, I think in like the Andes Mountains, so like very remote sheltered groups. And it actually turns out, in my reading, it turns out that it's a really stable social form. Maybe that's a conversation for another time. Polygyny tends to be not so stable, less stable, because you have to kick men out. If the older men are taking all of the younger women as their multiple wives, you have to kick younger men out as they come of age because there aren't any women available for them. With one woman, many husbands, that same issue doesn't occur. With that said, that's not what we're talking about. That was a very long rabbit hole. What we're talking about is polyamory or non-monogamy, which is a form where every person gets to have multiple people. So there's no single person who is getting all of the love and affection and attention and touch, while lots of other people are missing out or only getting a portion. Everybody gets to have all of their needs met by other people. So the husband might have multiple female partners at the same time that the wife has multiple partners. In the swinging community, now, I want to be careful how I talk about this because I have had some experiences in the swinging community. It is definitely not my community. It's not a place that I feel particularly comfortable, but it is still a valid community. So I want to be careful to not bring my own discomfort with it into the conversation in case it's something you choose to do. I want you to know it is entirely ethical, valid. I support you. Also, it tends to be an extremely heteronormative community, meaning that men never, almost never, interact with other men. whereas the women frequently interact with each other while the men watch. So essentially, like the women might be getting some of their bi-curious fantasies, experienced, but they're doing it at least in part for the pleasure and titillation of their male partner. So they're doing it not for their own enjoyment entirely, but for the enjoyment of their partner. And to me, that feels a little squicky. But in swinging, you get lots of interaction between lots of different people, and everybody gets to have their own choices about partners. There's no person who's kind of left out because of their gender or their role. So that is a little deep dive into soft swinging and polygamy versus polygyny versus polyandry versus polyamory versus swinging. The deeper you go down these rabbit holes, the more you will learn there is a word for everything. And people get kind of, what do I want to say, territorial about their words. They want to make sure that their words are used correctly. So I'm pretty sure that I got some of those words confused, and I'll try to put them up on the screen when I'm editing this. That's it for today. I'm going to just go through these 8 episodes of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives and then come on here and talk about scenes that seem like they have some learning value to them as I come to them. So please like this video, please. It makes a big difference. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so that you're notified when new videos go up, and I will see you again soon. I am Schmecks and relationship coach Leah Carey.